Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Shahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitanscha. All right, so first of all, Damodarastakam, text 6, and the purport to that. And then we'll continue with the Mahabharata, but Mark will read the chapter that was not in our edition from last week. Namo Deva Damodarananta Vishnu Prasida Prabho Dukkha Jaladi Magnam Kripa Drishti Vristyati Dinam Batanu Grihane Shamam Agyame Jakshi Drishyaha. So the translation is, Hail Deus, Namo Deva, that is, belly bound, the one adored, Almighty Vishnu, universal Lord. Be pleased, O Master, and thy favour show, for I am steeped in ocean-like sorrow. Pour down, O Lord, thy gracious glance on me. Although I am wretched and unworthy, accept me and reveal to me the prize, not only in the mind, but to the eyes. So the commentary goes, raised to the heights of rapturous glorification by the sudden onrush of loving ecstasy, the author, in the verse beginning with Hail, applies himself to the most efficacious discipline of loud glorification of the divine names, and in humble solicitude submits his petition for the attainment of grace. The word tubhyam, or unto thee, is implied in the salutation hail, but due to anxiety occasioned by the perturbation of religious frenzy, the author has omitted unto thee. To paraphrase, he says, O Master, O my omnipotent God, be graciously disposed to show thy favour. I am immersed in the sea of sorrow and grief for want of thy vision, or else I am thrown into the irremediable affliction of metempsychosis, wherefore I have sunk to the extremity of wretchedness. Metempsychosis means transmigratory existence, reincarnation. Or I am helpless and deprived of all assistance, therefore I am rendered indigent and worthless. Or I am on the verge of death, or indeed my life is dead. Thus he deplores his utter ignorance and feels incapable of finding any solution. Thereupon the author expresses his aspiration. Look upon me with thy gracious glance, or favour me by showering a downpour of your ambrosial beauty, and by such merciful condescension uplift me from that sea of sorrows aforementioned. Finally, he divulges his heart's desire. Oh, let me see thee with mine eyes. Thus, by degrees, he raises his expectation and takes courage to solicit his most cherished desire, in due order from least to best, and not abruptly or discursively. How the direct and immediate vision surpasses the inward vision in the mind is elaborated by the attendants of the Almighty Lord in their discourse on the glory of direct vision in the second part of my Brihad Bhagavatamrita. With the invocation, O Deva, my God, endued with rare and supernal beauty, which occasions my desire to see you. O belly-bound Damodara, since thou art submissive to the affection of thy votaries, it is quite befitting that thou showest thyself to me. O Ananta, O infinite being, who confers infinite blessings by the operation of thy gracious glance. Prabhu, puissant Master, thine incomprehensible, uncircumscribed, wondrous, and mighty power is capable, despite being beyond the range and scope of perception, of revealing to the optic sense a vision of thy beauty. Isha, almighty ruler, being totally independent, you bestow your grace without respect of persons, disinterested and therefore without motive. Also, the address, O Vishnu, alludes to his omnipresence, implying, O thou who art ever wont to enter the groves and bowers, caves and grottos of divine Vrindavan, since it requires no laborious exertion on thy part, thou mayest show thyself to me. Or else it suggests, O infinite and indivisible being, O omnipresent Vishnu, O Damodara, and so forth. By the exercise of thy abundant tender affection, thou hast the capacity to accomplish all things. The ensuing statements may be read in the like manner or interpreted in that fashion. And that's it. So now Mark can read that missing chapter.
Okay. Hold on a minute. What's happening here? You cannot start your video because the host has disabled it.
Oh, Matura, you have to re-enable him.
That's okay, darling.
Now you're muted.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay. No, that's good.
Hold on. Let's put that down there. Is that okay?
Yeah.
There we go.
Better.
Okay, then. So this is the
Do
chapter.
so your head's in the middle of it. So so in the middle of the screen. Shift the screen angle. Sorry, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Brilliant, much better.
Okay. This is the chapter just before they go to Gandhamadana or Badrinath. And I don't know why it was left out by Debroy, but anyway, I'll just read it. It's not very long. Okay. Because if you remember, they were talking about how they wanted to see, how they were, desperate to see Arjuna. They haven't seen him for so long because he's been up in the Indraloka. And so, yes, here we go. This is the section. Hare Krishna. Lomasa said, O sons of Pandu, ye have seen many a mountain and river and town and forest and beautiful tirtha, and have touched with your hands the sacred waters. Now this way leads to the celestial mountain Mandara. Therefore be ye attentive and composed. Ye will now repair to the residence of the celestials and the divine sages of meritorious deeds. Here, O king, flows the mighty and beautiful river Alaknanda, of holy water, adored by hosts of celestials and sages, and tracing its source, the site of the jujube tree, or the badari. It is frequented and worshipped by high-souled Vayhayasas, Valakilyas, and Gandharvas of mighty souls. Accustomed to singing the Sama hymns, the sages Marichi, Pulaha, Brigu, and Angiras chanted them at this spot. Here the Lord of Celestials performeth with the Maruts his daily prayers, and the Sadyas and the Aswins attend on him. The sun, the moon, and all the luminaries with the planets resort to this river, alternately by day and by night. O highly fortunate monarch, that protector of the world, Mahadeva, having a bull for his mark, received on his head the fall of the waters of this river at the source of the Ganga. O children, approach this goddess of the 6 attributes and bow down before her with concentrated minds. Hearing the words of the high-souled Lomasa, the sons of Pandu reverentially worshipped the river Ganga, flowing through the firmament. And after having adored her, the pious sons of Pandu resumed their journey, accompanied by the sages. And it came to pass that those best of men beheld at a distance some white object of vast proportions, even like Meru, and stretching on all sides. And knowing that Pandu's sons were intent upon asking him, Lomasa, versed in speech, said, Hear, O sons of Pandu, O best of men, what ye see before you of vast proportions, like unto a mountain, and beautiful as the Kailasha cliff, is a collection of the bones of the mighty Daitya Naraka. Being placed on a mountain, it looketh like one. The Daitya was slain by that supreme soul, the eternal God Vishnu, for the good of the Lord of Celestials. Aiming at the possession of Indra's place by the force of austere and Vedic law, that mighty-minded demon had practiced austere penances for 10,000 years. And on account of his asceticism, he also, as also the force and might of his arms, he had grown invincible and always harassed Indra. And, O sinless one, knowing his strength and austerities and observance of religious vows, Indra became agitated and was overwhelmed with fear. And mentally he thought of the eternal deity Vishnu. And thereat the graceful Lord of the universe, who is present everywhere, appeared and stood before him manifest. And the sages and celestials began to propitiate Vishnu with prayers. And in his presence, even Agni of the 6 attributes and of blazing beauty, being overpowered by his effulgence, became shorn of radiance, and seeing before him the god Vishnu, the chief of the celestials, who wields the thunderbolt, bowing with head down, readily apprised Vishnu of the source of his fear. Thereupon Vishnu said, I know, O Shakra, that thy fear proceedeth from Naraka, that lord of the Daityas. By the merit of his successful ascetic acts, he aimeth at Indra's position. Therefore, for pleasing thee, I shall certainly sever his soul from his body, although he hath achieved success in asceticism. Do thou, Lord of Celestials, wait for a moment. Then the exceedingly powerful Vishnu deprived Naraka of his senses by striking him with his hand, and he fell down on the earth, even like the monarch of mountains struck by thunder. He was thus slain by a miracle, and his bones lie gathered at this spot. Here also is manifest another deed of Vishnu's. Once the whole earth having been lost and sunk into the nether regions, she was lifted up by him in the shape of a boar having a single tusk. Yudhishthira said, O worshipful one, relate in particular how Vishnu, the Lord of the Celestials, raised up the earth, sunk 100 yojanas. In what manner also was that support of all created beings, the goddess Earth of high fortune, who dispenseth blessings and bringeth forth all sorts of corn, rendered stable? Through whose power had she sunk 100 yojanas below, and under what circumstances was exhibited this great exploit of the Supreme Being? O chief of the twice-born race, I wish to hear all about it in detail as it happened. Certainly it is known to thee. Lomasa said, O Yudhishthira, listen to all at length as I relate the story to which thou hast asked me to narrate. O child, in days of yore, There was once a terrible time in Krita Yoga when the eternal and primeval deity assumed the duties of Yama. And thou that never fallest off, when the god of gods began to perform the function of Yama, there died not a creature while the births were as usual. Then there began to multiply birds and beasts and kine and sheep and deer and all kinds of carnivorous animals. O tiger among men and vanquisher of foes, then the human race also increased by thousands, even like unto a current of water. And, O my son, when the increase of population had been so frightful, the earth, oppressed with the excessive burden, sank down for 100 yojanas. And suffering pain in all her limbs, and being deprived of her senses by excessive pressure, the earth in distress sought the protection of Narayana, the foremost of the gods. The earth spake, saying, "It is by thy favour, O possessor of the 6 attributes, that I had been able to remain so long in my position. But I have been overcome with burden, and now I cannot hold myself any longer. It behoveth thee, O adorable one, to relieve this load of mine. I have sought thy protection, O Lord, and do thou therefore extend unto me thy favour." Hearing these words of hers, yes, this is the earth. Hearing these words of hers, the eternal Lord, possessor of the 6 attributes, complacently said in words uttered in distinct letters. Vishnu said, "Thou need not fear, O afflicted earth, the bearer of all treasures. I shall act so that thou mayest be made light." Lomasa said, "Having thus dismissed the earth, who hath the mountains for her earrings, he suddenly became turned into a boar with one tusk of exceeding effulgence, causing terror with his glowing red eyes and emitting fumes from his blazing luster. He began to swell in magnitude in that region. O hero, then, holding the earth with his single radiant tusk, that being who pervadeth the Vedas, raised her up 100 yojanas, and while she was being thus raised, there ensued a mighty agitation, and all the celestials, together with the sages of ascetic wealth, became agitated. And heaven and the firmament and also the earth were filled with exclamations of "Oh!" and "Alas!" And neither the celestials nor men could rest in peace. Then countless celestials, together with the sages, went to Brahma, who was seated, burning, as it were, in his own luster. Then approaching Brahma, the Lord of Celestials, and the witness of the acts of all beings, they, with folded hands, spake the following words. "O Lord of the Celestials, all created beings have become agitated, and the mobile and immobile creatures are restless. O Lord of the Celestials, even the oceans are found to be agitated, and this whole earth hath gone down 100 yojanas. What is the matter, and by whose influence is it that the whole universe is in ferment? May it please thee to explain it unto us without delay, for we are all bewildered." Thereupon, Brahma replied, "Ye immortals, do ye not entertain fear for the asuras in any matter or place? Hearken, ye celestials, to the reason to which all this commotion is owing. This agitation in the heavens hath been produced by the influence of the illustrious being who is omnipresent, eternal, and never perishing soul, and the never perishing soul. That supreme soul, Vishnu, hath lifted up the earth, who had entirely sunk down 100 yojanas. This commotion hath taken place in consequence of the earth being raised up. Know ye this, and dispel your doubts." The celestials said, "Where is that being who with pleasure raiseth up the earth? O possessor of the 6 attributes, mention unto us the place. Thither shall we repair." Brahma said, "Go ye, may good happen to you. Ye will find him resting in the Nandana gardens. Yonder is visible the glorious, worshipful Suparna or Garuda. After having raised the earth, the supreme being from whom the world become manifest, flameth even in the shape of a boar, like unto the all-consuming fire, at the universal dissolution, and on his it's a spelling mistake, and on his breast is really to be seen the gem Srivatsa. Go and behold that being, knowing no deterioration. Lomasa said. Then the celestials, placing the grandsire at their head, came to that infinite soul, and having listened to his praise, bade him adieu, and went back to whence they had come. Vaishampayana said, O Janamejaya, having heard this story, all the Pandavas without delay and with alacrity began to proceed by the way pointed out by Lomasa. And that's the end of that chapter.
Thank you. That was wow. Okay. A little.
Don't know why it was missed out, but there you go.
The reason
Okay.
that it was missed out is because there are various recensions of the Mahabharata, and they don't all have the same chapters. And so Debroy is using what's called the critical edition. And so the critical edition, they've taken it upon themselves to remove all the chapters that are not found in all regional editions,
Ah,
on the grounds that they would suggest that they've been added later on. But of course, it's not an exact science, but that's the reason anyway. So Debroy is using a different one than Ganguli was using.
right.
But you never know. There's always a chance that chapters that seem to be not there might come later. They might be in another
True.
place, although it's unlikely with this one. Anyway, so I'll continue then from where we were at.
Please.
Yeah. What page again? 19 what?
193,
Okay.
chapter 447.
Okay.
Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Vaishampayana said, then the monkey contracted his huge body, which he had extended through his own wishes. He once again embraced Bhimasena with his arms. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, having been thus embraced by his brother, Bhima's exhaustion was destroyed and everything was at ease. With tears in his eyes, the ape once again told Bhima, in a voice that was choked with affectionate. O brave one, return to your own abode, but remember me in your thoughts. O best of the Kurus, do not tell anyone that I am here. O immensely powerful one, when they have obtained leave from the abode of the Lord of Riches, the wives of the gods and the Gandharvas come to this region and to this time. My eyes have been satisfied, and I have remembered Raghava. O Bhima, through you I have touched another human body. O brave one, O Kaunteya, now let your sight of me be successful too. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, because of our brotherhood, ask for a boon. If you wish that I should go to Hastinapura and kill the low sons of Dhritarashtra, I will do that. Or I will grind that city down with rocks. O immensely strong one, I will perform whatever deed you desire. On hearing these words of the great souled one, Bhima was delighted and replied to Hanuman with happiness in his heart, O bull among apes, you have already done everything for me. O mighty armed one, may you be fortunate. Forgive me. I desire your favors. With a protector as valorous as you, all of us Pandavas have found a protector. With your energy, all of us will triumph over our enemies. Having heard these words, Hanuman told Bhimasena, from brotherhood and out of my well wishes towards you, I will do that which will bring you pleasure. O brave one, O mighty armed one, when you rush into the enemy's battle formations, armed with arrows and spears, and utter a roar like that of a lion, I will add my own roars to that of yours. Seated on Vijaya's flagstaff, Arjuna, I will loose terrible roars that will rob the enemies of their lives. Having said this, he disappeared. When that supreme of apes had left, Bhima, foremost among strong ones, travelled along that road to the extensive Gandhamadana. He thought about his resplendent body, Hanuman's, unmatched on earth. He thought about Dasarathi's greatness and power. Travelling eagerly towards Saugandhika forest, he made lovely forests and groves tremble. He saw forests with blossoms and many colourful flowers and lotuses. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, he saw mad elephants that were streaked with mud like masses of monsoon clouds. Proceeding fast, the handsome one saw bucks with does in the forest. They had grass in their mouths, and their darting eyes looked at him. With great valour, Bhimasena entered the mountain that was infested with buffaloes, boars, and tigers, as if forest trees that were in blossom, stirred by the breeze and with branches lowered by the burden of delicate and copper-red shoots, had invited in him. He passed ponds teeming with lotuses, with beautiful tirthas and groves swarming with intoxicated bees. The lotuses seemed to join their hands in salutation, but Bhima's mind was set on the peak of the mountain, full of flowers. With Draupadi's words providing sustenance, he travelled faster. When the day had turned, in the forest that was infested with deer, he saw a wide river. It was full of unblemished and golden lotuses. It was a swarm with intoxicated Karandavas, ruddy geese, and adorned with Chakravakas. No, that's the ruddy geese. So is the Karandavas. It was as if a garland of spotless lotuses had been designed for the mountain. Near that river, the greatly powerful one saw the large Saugandhika forest. It was radiant as the rising sun and brought him joy. On seeing this, Pandu's son thought that his desires had been satisfied. His mind went out to his beloved, who was suffering as a result of dwelling in the forest. 488. Vaishampayana said, on the peak of Kailash, and in that beautiful grove, he saw that beautiful pond guarded by Rakshasas. Its source was the mountainous waterfalls that were near Kuvera's abode. It was extremely beautiful, with a lot of shade and full of many trees and creepers. It was covered with yellow lotuses and divine golden lotuses. It made the world pure. It was auspicious and extraordinary to behold. Pandava, Kunti's son, saw the clear, cool, light and pure water there like Amrita. He drank a lot of that auspicious water. The beautiful pond was covered with Saugandhika lotuses. There were golden lotuses with supreme fragrance. The stalks were made out of lapis lazuli. They were beautiful and had many colours. Disturbed by the swans and the karandakas, they scattered white pollen. This was the pleasure ground of the great-souled Kuvera, king of the Yakshas. It was shown great homage by the Gandharvas, the Apsaras, and the gods. It was frequented by rishis, yakshas, king purushas, rakshasas, and kinnaras, and was protected well by Vaishravana, as Kubera, son of the sage Vishrava. On seeing that celestial pond, the immensely strong Kaunteya Bhimasena was filled with great delight. On the instructions of their king, hundreds and thousands of Rakshasas named Krodhavashas stood guard, armed with many different kinds of weapons. They saw Kaunteya, the destroyer of enemies. Bhima, terrible in valor, was clad in deerskin and golden armor for his upper arms. He was armed with his sword, he was armed, and his sword was girded. When they saw him fearlessly advance to gather the lotuses, they shouted at one another, "Why is this Mahabharata tiger among men come here? He is clad in deerskin and bears arms. Inquire." Then all of them approached the mighty armed Recorder and asked the resplendent one, "Who are you? Tell us. You wear the garments of a hermit, and we see that you are attired in bark. O immensely intelligent one, tell us why you have come." 499. Bhima replied, "I am Pandava Bhimasena. I am next in birth to Dharma's son. O Rakshasas, I have come with my brothers to the extensive Badali. There Panchali saw the supreme Saugandhika. The wind carried it from here, and she immediately wanted many more. O those who roam in the night, know that I have come here to gather flowers, to do that which brings pleasure to the one with the unblemished limbs, my wife, in accordance with Dharma." The Rakshasa said, "O bull among men, this is Kubera's beloved pleasure garden. One who is subject to the laws of mortal earth cannot sport here. O Vrikodara, Devarshis, Yakshas, and gods have to seek the permission of the Lord of Yakshas before they can drink or amuse themselves here. O Pandava, so do the Gandharvas and the Apsaras before sporting here. If an evil-minded one sports here against these rules, insulting the Lord of Riches, there is no doubt that he will meet with destruction. Ignoring him, you wish to take these lotuses away by force. Why do you then describe yourself as Dharma Raja's brother?" Bhima replied, "O Rakshasas, I do not see the Lord of Riches anywhere near. Even if I were to see the great king, I would not trouble him by asking. It is the eternal Dharma that kings should not beg. I do not wish to deviate from the Dharma of Kshatriyas by even a trifle. This beautiful lotus pond has been created from the mountainous water springs. It is not part of the abode of the great-souled Kubera. It belongs equally to all beings, just as it does to Vaishravana. Since this is the state of affairs, why should I ask? Who should I ask? Whom for permission?" Vaishampayana said, "Having said this to all the Rakshasas, the powerful Bhimasena plunged in. All the Rakshasas tried to restrain him, asking him to desist. They angrily abused him from all directions, but not paying any attention to the Rakshasas, the one who was terrible in valor plunged in. All of them tried to restrain the immensely energetic one. "Grasp him, bind him, slash him. We will cook and feed on Bhimasena." Angrily uttering such words, they raised their arms and, distending their eyes, swiftly rushed at him. He grasped his giant club inlaid with gold and like Yama's staff. He grasped it and swiftly hurled himself among them, shouting, "Stay there! Stay there!" the extremely terrible Krodavashas suddenly rushed at him with great force. They had spears, battle axes, and other weapons. Desiring to kill him, they encircled Bhima in terrible fashion. But the powerful one was born in Kunti's womb from the wind. He was swift and brave and the destroyer of his enemies. He was always devoted to truth and dharma. In valor, he was incapable of being vanquished by any foe. The great-souled one used many techniques. He destroyed the weapons of his enemies. On the bank of that pond, the brave one slew hundreds of them, including those who were the foremost. On seeing his valor and strength, the strength of his knowledge and the strength of his arms, and unable to withstand him despite their numbers, they suddenly fled in all directions, the foremost ones having been slain. They were destroyed and crushed, and bereft of their senses. They took to the sky. Crushed by Bhima, the Krodavashas were shattered and ran away towards the peak of Kailasha. Having thus vanquished hordes of Daityas and Danavas in battle, like Shakra, the one who was victorious over his enemies, again plunged into the pond and collected lotuses in accordance with his desires. Having drunk the water, which was like Amrita, his valor and energy were completely restored. He plucked and gathered Saugandhika lotuses with a supreme fragrance. The Krodavashas had been overcome with Bhima's strength. They went to the Lord of Riches and, extremely frightened, told him about Bhima's valor and strength in battle. Having heard their words, the god laughed and told the Rakshasas, "Let Bhima take as many lotuses as he wishes for Krishna. I know the reason." Having taken their leave of the Lord of Riches and having controlled their anger, they returned to the forest of lotuses, sporting happily. And I'll read one more because that finishes this parva. 450. Vaishampayana said, "Then the bull among the Bharata lineage started to gather large numbers of those precious, divine, unblemished and colourful flowers. Suddenly a large storm arose. It swiftly threw up stones from below. It was harsh to the touch and carried with it the portents of battle. A giant meteor descended, immensely fiery in the storm. Covered with the darkness, the sun's rays were dimmed and it lost its radiance. While Bhima resorted to his terrible valor, a terrible whirlwind gathered. The earth began to tremble and a storm of dust descended. The directions turned red. Animals and birds screamed in harsh voices. Everything was covered in darkness and nothing could be seen. On seeing these extraordinary happenings, Yudhishthira, meanwhile he's back at the camp, Dharma's son and the foremost among speakers, spoke these words: "Who is attempting to overthrow us? O Pandavas, you are always powerful in battle. Be fortunate and prepared. From what I can see, the time for displaying our valor has come." Having spoken these words, the king looked around, but Yudhishthira, Dharma's son, could not see Bhima. Then the destroyer of enemies asked Krishna and the twins, who were close by, about his brother Bhima, the performer of terrible deeds in battle. "O Panchali, did Bhima desire to perform some deed? Or has that brave one who is addicted to valor already performed some courageous deed? Portents can suddenly be seen in all the directions. They indicate a great battle and foretell great dangers. The intelligent Krishna, his sweet smiling and beloved queen, who always wished to bring him pleasure, replied to his words, O king, a Sogandika was brought here by the wind today. I showed it to Bhimasena and lovingly told the brave one to bring many more back to me, if he should see them, and return quickly. O king, to bring me pleasure, the mighty armed Pandava must have gone to the northeastern direction. Having heard these words, the king told the twins, in that case, let us immediately go where Vrikodara has gone. Let the Rakshasas bear the Brahmanas who are exhausted and tired, as their case may be. O Gatotkacha, you are equal to the immortals. You carry Krishna. It is my certain view that Bhima has gone a long distance away. He has been away for a long time, and he is like the wind in his speed. In swiftly leaping over the ground, he is like Vinata's son, Garuda. He will leap into the sky and descend as he pleases. O those who roam the night, with the aid of your powers, we will follow him before he causes any offense to the Siddhas and those who are learned in the Brahman. They agreed to these words. O bull among the Bharata lineage, they were all led by Hidimba's son, who was foremost among them and knew the region around Kubera's pond. In a delighted frame of mind, they grasped the Pandavas and many other Brahmanas together with Lomasha. All of them travelled together until they saw the grove and the extremely beautiful pond with Saugandhika lotuses. They saw the intelligent and great-souled Bhima along its banks, and the bodies of the large-eyed yakshas that he had slain. He was standing on the banks of the river, his club raised in his two arms, like Yama with his shaft in his hand at the time of the destruction of beings. On seeing him, Dharmaraja embraced him again and again. He spoke to him in gentle words. "Oh, Kaunteya, what have you done? O fortunate one, because of your courage, you have brought displeasure to the gods. If you wish to bring me pleasure, never commit such deeds again." After having thus instructed Kaunteya, they collected lotuses and amused themselves in that lotus pond like the immortals. At that time, the guards appeared. Their bodies were gigantic, and they were armed with rocks. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, when they saw Dharmaraja, Maharshi Lomasha, Nakula, Sahadeva, and all the other bulls among Brahmanas, they prostrated themselves in humility. Dharmaraja pacified those roamers of the night, and they became calm. With Kubera's permission, the bulls among the Kurus lived there for some time and sported themselves.
Fabulous. What a story. God, it's so Bhima. God, I'm just in love with Bhima. I mean, my goodness gracious.
It's great.
He's just the ultimate Superman hero. And he's just he's got such a different characteristic to Arjuna. There's a different kind of
Oh,
he
yeah.
uses a whole different kind of mood and his whole everything about him, and it's just, and then isn't it gorgeous? Anyway, let's carry on. That light's a bit, let me just get this a bit better. Wait a minute, I'm trying to get that out. That's a bit better. Okay. Can you hear me? Is that good? Okay, let me just get that on a bit. Okay. Okay. Section 34. Wow, so we've finished the Tirthapava. Oh, you're not on. You've muted yourself.
No, it's still Tirthaparva because you can tell.
Tirthaparva.
Yeah, we're still on that. This is a subsection. You get that. That's
Okay.
why the chapter 451 is the Mahabharata, and the
Yeah.
chapter 154 is Tirthaparva.
Okay. Glasses. Okay. Section 34, Jatasura Vadaparva of the Mahabharata. This parva has 61 shlokas and one chapter. Vada means to kill or slay. And this section is about Bhima killing the demon Jatasura. Jai Shri Krishna. Vaishampayana 451 150. Vaishampayana said, the Pandavas lived comfortably on that mountain. When the Rakshasas and Bhimashena's son had left, and they were without Bhimashena, who had gone to roam around as he killed a Rakshasa, abducted Dharmaraj, the twins, and Krishna. He had pretended to be a Brahmana skilled in mantras and well versed in weapons. Having said this, he had served the Pandavas every day. He lived with the Partas, covetous of their quivers and bows, and waited for his chance. He was known by the name of Jatasura. When Bhimashena, the destroyer of enemies, went out to hunt, he assumed a different form. Aha. Okay, there we go. I'm going to say that again. When Bhimashena, the destroyer of enemies, went out to hunt, he assumed a different form. They could all do it, these dudes. It was distorted, terrible, and gigantic. Having grasped all the weapons and seizing Draupadi and the three Pandavas, he fled. Ah, that's the demon who assumed the forms. God, that was confusing. Okay, let me read this again. Wow. He was known by the name of Jatasura. When Bhimashena, the destroyer of enemies, went out to hunt, he assumed a different form. Oh God, I got so confused. It was distorted, terrible, and gigantic. Having grasped all the weapons and seizing Draupadi and the three Pandavas, he fled, but with a great deal of effort. Pandava Sahadev extricated himself, shouting for Bhimashena. He ran in the direction that the immensely strong one had taken. While he was thus being abducted, Dharmaraj Yudhisthira told him, "O stupid one, Dharma declines in you, but you do not see it. Whether one is a human or whether one belongs to inferior species, the Gandharvas, the Yakshas, and the Rakshasas, birds and the animals, draw their sustenance from humans, and so do you. If there is any prosperity in our world, there is prosperity in your world too. If our world suffers, the gods suffer along with us." Wow. They prosper through worship and oblations to the gods and the ancestors offered through rituals. O Rakshasa, we are the guardians and the protectors of the kingdom. If kingdoms are unprotected, how can there be prosperity? How can there be happiness? Unless there has been an act of injury, no Rakshasa could ever harm a king. O one who lives off men, we have not committed the least bit of injury. One should never injure friends and those who are trustful, those whose food has been partaken of, and those who have provided shelter. You found shelter with us. We showed you honour, and you lived happily. O one who is not wise, having partaken of our food, how can you abduct us? Since your conduct is fruitless, your age is fruitless, and your intelligence is fruitless, you deserve a fruitless death. And these words will not be fruitless today. If you are truly evil-minded and devoid of all Dharma, then return our weapons and win Draupadi after vanquishing us in battle. But if you are driven by ignorance in your mind and persist in performing this act, you will follow that which is not Dharma and will only obtain ill fame in this world. O Rakshasa, you have today laid your hands on this human woman. It is as if you have stirred up a vessel and drunk poison from it. Wow. Then Yudhisthira bore down heavily on him, and oppressed by this weight, he could not travel very fast. Yudhisthira told Nakula and Draupadi, "Do not be frightened of this stupid Rakshasa. I have robbed him of his speed. Pavana's mighty armed son cannot be far away. He will arrive in an instant, and the Rakshasa will have no future." O king, on seeing that the Rakshasa was deluded of his intelligence, Sahadev spoke to Kunti's son Yudhisthira. O king, nothing brings greater merit to a Kshatriya than to fall in the field of battle and give up his life, or triumph over an enemy. O scorcher of enemies, let us fight him in the field of battle. Either he will kill us, or we will kill him. O mighty armed one, O king, the time and the place are right. O one for whom valour is truth, the time has come to show the dharma of Kshatriyas. Whether we triumph or whether we are slain, we will attain the supreme objective. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, if the Rakshasa is still alive when the sun sets, I will no longer be able to say that I am a Kshatriya. O Rakshasa, stop! I am Pandava Sahadev. Either kill me and take them up. Oh, sorry. I am Pandava Sahadev. Either kill me and take them today or fall senseless. While he was speaking thus, Bhimashena appeared by chance. The mighty armed one looked like Vashava, the wind god, with his Vajra. He saw two brothers and the famous Draupadi and Sahadev on the ground, challenging the Rakshasa. He saw the stupid Rakshasa who had lost his path, his intelligence, having been robbed by time. Driven by destiny, he was roaming around there, here and there. On seeing his brothers and Draupadi being thus abducted, the mighty armed Bhima was overcome with rage and told the Rakshasa, I had got to know about you earlier when I saw you scrutinize our weapons, but though I did not have my trust in you, I did not kill you then. You were in the form of a Brahmana, and you had not uttered any unpleasant words towards us. You did what brought us pleasure, and you did nothing that brought us displeasure. You were in the form of an innocent Brahmana who was a guest. Anyone who kills such a person, even if he knows him to be a Rakshasa, goes to hell. That apart, the time for your killing was not right. That time is right now. Since your inclination is of this nature, extraordinary destiny has made you abduct Krishna. You have swallowed the hook that stretches from the line of fate like the fish in the water. Wow, what dialogue. How will you escape from me today? You will not be able to reach the region you have left for, and where your mind has already gone, you will not be able to reach, and you will traverse the path travelled by Baka and Hidimba. The Rakshasas Shasha was driven by destiny. Having been thus addressed by Bhima, he was frightened and threw them all down. Then he approached so as to fight, his limbs trembling anger. He told Bhima, O deluded one, I did not lose my direction because I was deluded. I was waiting for your sake. I have heard about the Rakshasas whom you killed in battle with your blood. I will offer funeral oblations to them today. Having thus been addressed, Bhima smilingly lit the corners of his mouth. He was bursting with rage, like time and death personified. With great force, he dashed at the Rakshasa to engage him in a bout of wrestling. On seeing that, Bhima stood ready to fight the Rakshasa. The Rakshasa also forcefully dashed towards him, like Bali towards the wielder of the Bhadra, Indra. When they were about to engage in that terrible battle with arms, Madri's two sons were also extremely angered and rushed forward. But Bikrodara, Kunti's son, laughingly restrained them. He said, Behold, I am capable of handling this Rakshasa, O king. By myself, with my brothers, by the Dharma that I have observed well, and by my oblations, I swear that I will finish off this Rakshasa. Having said this, the two brave ones challenged each other. The Rakshasa and Vrokrodara grasped each other with their arms. They did not spare each other. Angrily, Bhima and the Rakshasa engaged each other in a terrible battle, like a god and a Danava. Uprooting trees, the two immensely strong ones hurled them at each other, roaring like clouds when the summer season is over. These two, supreme among strong ones, shattered the trunks of trees and the force of their with the force of their thighs. They rushed at each other, each desirous of victory. The duel with trees went too. The duel with trees went too, causing the destruction of many large trees, like that ancient battle between the brothers Bali and Sugriva, lions among apes. For some time they repeatedly hurled trees at each other and struck each other continuously roaring. When all the trees in the region had been torn down, and in an attempt to kill each other, they had reduced them to hundreds of heaps, they immediately took up rocks. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, those two immensely strong ones fought like a king of mountains fighting with clouds. Those hard, terrible rocks flew around like the Vajra. They repeatedly struck each other with these. They were insolent because of their strength. After this, they rushed at each other and grasped each other with their arms, tugging like elephants. They struck each other with extremely terrible fists. The two great-souled ones raised the noise by gnashing their teeth. Then Bhima clenched his fist like a serpent with 5 heads and struck the Rakshas's neck with great force. The Rakshasa was exhausted from the force of Bhimasena's blow with the fist. On seeing this, Bhimasena grasped the one who was extremely tired. The mighty armed one, equal to the immortals, raised him up in his 2 arms, and with great force, Bhima then flung him down on the ground. Pandava shattered all his limbs. Holding him with his elbow, he detached the head from the trunk. Whoa! As a result of Bhimasena's force, Jatasura's head was severed and fell down on the ground, drenched in blood, the eyes bulging and the teeth clenched like a fruit dislodged from a tree. Having killed him, the mighty archer went to Yudhisthira, the foremost among Brahmanas, praised him like the Maruts prayed Vasava. I think it's over to you, Kanai. Kanai.
Yes. Can you just remind me?
207.
Okay.
It's a new section, section 35. That was a lot of hero. I mean, it was so, wow, brutal.
So what was this? What was this battle deciding? I kind of missed that.
It was
point.
one of their companions, Brahmin companions, was actually a Rakshasa in disguise.
Yeah.
Ah,
And so
okay.
while
Yeah.
Bhima was there, not there, he tried to abduct the other Pandavas and Draupadi.
Yeah.
And changed his form into his Rakshasa form. Then Bhima came just in time to kill him.
Okay. Cool.
Jatasura, that's his name. Do you like my picture? Look at my picture.
Yeah, it's awesome. How do you do that stuff?
It's just a book cover in front on the laptop.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Oh, great. So we're at section 35, Yaksha Yuddha Parva. I'll read the description and keep going. Yaksha Yuddha Parva, section 35. This Parva has 727 shlokas and 18 chapters. Yuddha means battle or fight, and the section is named after a fight between Bhima and the Yakshas. In this section, the Pandavas visit the sage Vrishaparva on Mount Gandhamadana and then travel to the hermitage of the sage Ashdishena, where they dwell, waiting for Arjuna's return. Reminiscent of section 33, Draupadi sends Bhima to search for celestial flowers. Bhima fights with Yakshas and Rakshasas and kills the Rakshasa Maniman. The Pandavas meet Kubera and Indra. Arjuna returns and recounts his adventures, repeating much of what has already been said in sections 31 and 32 from volume 1. These parts of section 35 are not only repetitive, sorry about that, and sometimes inconsistent, they don't quite seem to belong. The only new information is about Arjuna's fight with the Nivatakavacha demons, and the demons who inhabited Hiranyapura. Okay. 452. Vaishampayana said, when the Rakshasa had been killed, the Lord Kaunteya, the king, which is Yudhisthira, returned to Narayan's hermitage and began to live there again. One day, he assembled all his brothers. together with Draupadi, and remembering his brother Jaya. Footnote, Jaya and Vijaya are Arjuna's names. Vibhatsu is also one of Arjuna's names, as is Gandivadanva, the one with the Gandiva as his bow, and the footnote. So, one day he assembled all his brothers, that's Yudhisthira, together with Draupadi, and remembering his brother Jaya, Arjuna, told them, "Pure in our ways, we have lived in the forest, and 4 years have passed. Vibhatsu promised that in the 5th year he would come to the king of the mountains, the supreme peak that is white at the top. In a desire to meet him, we should also go to that region. The immensely energetic Partha," referring to Arjuna, "had decided on the time and had earlier made an agreement with me. I will live as a student for 5 years. We will see Gandhi Vadanva, the destroyer of enemies. There, after he has returned from the world of the gods with the weapons he has attained." I'll read that again. There, after he has returned from the world of the gods with the weapons he has attained. Full stop. Having uttered these words, the Pandava consulted all the Brahmanas and informed all the ascetics about the reasons. Having thus pleased the ones who were terrible in their austerities, Partha circumambulated them. That's Yudhisthira. The Brahmanas approved, because this was auspicious and would bring about welfare. O bull among the Bharata lineage, these difficulties will soon be replaced by happiness. O one learned in Dharma. This is the Brahmanas speaking, by the way, I believe. O one learned in Dharma, after having traversed the road, you will protect the earth in accordance with the Dharma of Kshatriyas. Then the king accepted the words of these ascetics. The destroyer of enemies departed with his brothers and the Brahmanas. The fortunate one was accompanied by Draupadi and followed Hidimba's son and the other Rakshasas and protected by Lomash. He travelled part of the way on foot. In other parts, the immensely energetic one, who was rigid in his vows, together with his brothers, was carried by the Rakshasas. Reflecting on the many difficulties, King Yudhisthira headed in a northern direction, infested by lions, tigers, and elephants. He saw the mountains Mainaka and Kailasha, the foothills of Gandhamadana, and the tall peak of Meru. There were many auspicious streams higher up on the mountains. He reached the sacred plateau of the Himalayas on the 7th day. O king, near Gandhamadana, the Pandavas saw the auspicious crest of the Himalayas, covered with many trees and creepers, and the extremely holy hermitage of Rishaparva, surrounded by many trees in blossom that grew along whirlpools of water. The destroyer of enemies, the Pandavas, approached Rajarshi Vrishaparva with dharma in his soul. When he welcomed them, their exhaustion vanished. The Rajarshi welcomed those bulls of the Bharata lineage as if they were his sons. Thus honored, those destroyers of enemies remained there for 7 nights. On the 8th day, after consulting the Rishi Vrishaparva, who was famous in the worlds, they decided to start on their journey. One by one, they introduced the Brahmanas to Vrishaparva. He honored them, and they remained in his charge for the moment, like relatives. The Pandavas also left their supreme garments and pure ornaments in Vrishaparva's hermitage. He was learned, skilled, knowledgeable on everything concerning dharma, and knew the past and the future. The one who was learned in dharma instructed the bulls of the Bharata lineage like his sons. Having obtained his permission, the brave and great-souled ones left in a northern direction, accompanied by Krishna and the great-souled Brahmanas. King Vrishaparva went with them for a short distance. Then, entrusting the Pandavas to the immensely energetic Brahmanas, and instructing and blessing the sons of Kunti. Vrishaparva returned, after having given them directions about the road to follow. Truth was valor for Kaunteya Yudhishthira. He proceeded on foot with his brothers through a region that was infested with many kinds of animals. They sometimes dwelt on the slopes of the mountains, covered with many different kinds of trees. On the fourth day, the Pandavas reached Mount Shweta. It looked like a gigantic cloud and was beautiful, with plenty of water. The beautiful top was covered with jewels and gold and had many peaks. They followed the route that had been indicated by Vrishaparva and saw many mountains in that region. They climbed higher up the mountain, with extremely inaccessible caverns and many impenetrable spots, without any discomfort. Tomya, Krishna, and the great Rishi Lomash travelled together, and none of them faltered. Those immensely valiant ones reached the great Mount Malyavan. It was full of noise of many animals and birds, and was populated by many kinds of birds. It was extremely beautiful and was frequented by masses of monkeys. There were sacred ponds full of lotuses. There were pools and extensive groves. With their body hair standing up, they happily saw Mount Gandamadana, the habitation of Kimpurushas, frequented by Vidyadharas and Lady Kinnaras, infested with elephants and lions and innumerable Sharabhas. Okay, Sharabhas, footnote. There's many meanings. Young elephant, camel. It is also a mythical animal with 8 legs, believed to be stronger than a lion. In this context, one probably means the mythical animal. End of footnote. They reached a region that resounded with the sweet sounds of many animals. With all this, Gandamadana resembled the pleasure garden of Nandana. Footnote, the name Nandana is the name of Indra's pleasure garden. End of footnote. In a happy frame of mind, Pandu's brave sons slowly entered this beautiful and sacred forest that brought delight to the mind and heart. With Draupadi and the great-souled Brahmanas, the brave ones heard the delightful, pleasant, melodious, and charming sounds emerging from the mouths of birds. They saw many trees that were bent down because of the burden of their fruit. All of them were full of every kind of fruit and were radiant with every kind of flower. Mangoes, blossoming hog plumes, coconuts, tindukas, ajatakas, jeras, pomegranates, citrus trees, jackfruit, breadfruit, plantains, dates, tamarinds, paravatas, kshodras, beautiful nipas, bilvas, wood apples, rose apples, kashmaris, badaris, figs, udumbaras, fig trees, holy fig trees, kshirinas, marking nuts, myrobalans, haritakas, bibitakas, ingudas, kalaviras, tindukas, with a lot of fruit, and many other trees that were on the slopes of Gandamadana. All these names were names of trees. There was succulent fruit as tasty as Amrita. There were many champakas, another tree, or more trees, ashokas, ketakas, bakulas, bumnagas, saptaparnis, karnikaras, ketakas, patalas, kutajas, beautiful coral trees, blue lotuses, parijatas, kovidaras, pine trees, shalas, palms, tamalas, priyalas, bakulas, silk cotton, kimshukas, ashokas. We said ashoka already. Tree with red flowers. Ashoka 57, tree with red blossoms, mentioned twice. Shimshapas and saralas, These were full of chakoras, woodpeckers, large bees. So now these are lists of birds and little living creatures. Large bees, parrots, cuckoos, sparrows, haritas, birds, pheasants, priyavratas, chatakas, and many other kinds of birds. They warbled beautiful notes that were pleasant to the ear. They also saw beautiful ponds full of clear water, with white water lilies, white lotuses, red lotuses, blue lotuses, white lotuses, and lotuses on all sides. There were geese, ruddy geese, ospreys, waterfowls, ducks, plovers, swans, cranes, cormorants, and many other aquatic birds everywhere. There were beautiful ponds full of lotuses. Excited bumblebees hummed there, intoxicated by the nectar of red lotuses that bloomed during the day. Red pollen fell into the lotus cups. They saw these beautiful sights on the slopes of Gandhamadana, and in the beautiful clusters of lotuses and groves of creepers that were everywhere, they saw peacocks with their peahens. They were extremely maddened by the desire that the drumming of the clouds brought. In sweet and melodious tones, they uttered their calls. The peacocks spread out the colored plumage of their tails and danced redolently, as did other playful forest birds. Others roamed happily with their beloved ones in the valleys that were covered with creepers and lantanas. Where the woods were clear, they saw other birds in the holes of trees, beautiful and with splendid tails spread out like crowns. Footnote for that one, the trees seemed to be wearing crowns. And they saw graceful Sindhuvara trees on the peaks of the mountain. They looked like Manmanata's javelins. Manmanata is the god of love. Covered with golden blossoms, there were beautiful Karnikaras blossoming like handsome earrings. They saw Kurubakas flowering in the forest like a volley of Kama's arrows, increasing desire among those who are in love. They saw Tilakas. Yeah, tilak, footnote, is a kind of tree with beautiful flowers. Tilak is also a mark made on the forehead, as we all know. Like beautiful tilak marks on the forest. Like, there you go. They saw beautiful mango trees that were like Ananga's arrows. Ananga, another name for the god of love. Let's read that. Literally, the word Ananga means one without a body, and there is a story about how the god of love lost his body because of Shiva's rage. End of footnote. So, like Ananga's arrows, abuzz with bees and clusters of flowers. There were many other trees on the peak of the mountain, like garlands, like gold, with flowers like a forest conflagration, red, black like collyrium, and like lapis lazuli. There were shalas, tamalas, patalas, and bakulas. Thus, one by one, the brave ones saw these everywhere on the slopes of Gandhamadana, frequented by masses of elephants and lions and tigers, resounding with the roars of sharapas and many other cries, and covered everywhere with fruit and flowers. The forests were yellow-tinged like the sun. There were no thorns anywhere, or trees without blossoms. The trees on the slope of Gandhamadhana were tender and dense with foliage and fruit. On the peaks of the mountain, the Partas also saw lakes and rivers that were like clear crystal, populated by birds with white feathers, with the sounds of swans and cranes, with colorful lotuses and blue lotuses, with fragrant garlands and succulent fruit. The trees on the peak of the mountain were radiant with blossoms. There were many other groves full of trees there. There were many kinds of creepers laden with leaves, flowers, and fruit. On seeing those trees, on that supreme of mountains, Yudhishthira told Bhimasen in affectionate words, "O Bhima, look at this beautiful region all around us, the playground of the gods. We followed a path no human has followed. O Vrikodara, we have achieved success. O Partha, creepers, lantanas, and blossoms embrace the supreme of trees and adorn Gandhamadana's peak. O Bhima, listen to the sound of the calls of peacocks, together with peahens, on the peak of this mountain. Chakoras, Shatapatras, intoxicated cuckoos and sarikas are perching themselves on these gigantic trees, full of foliage and flowers. O Partha, the birds are scarlet, yellow, and red on the tops of the trees. Many other jivas and jivakas are glancing at each other. Cranes can be seen on the green and red spots of grass that are everywhere and near the mountain springs. They are warbling in a beautiful voice, charming to all beings. There are bees, ruddy geese, and birds with backs tinged in red. There are elephants with 4 tusks, with the hue of lotuses, and with the she-elephants. This great lake is beautiful, tinged with the hue of lapis lazuli. Water streams down from many waterfalls. Oh, Bhima, they shine like the sun and are like autumn clouds. They adorn this giant mountain with much silver and many minerals. In some places, 'tis dark like collyrium. In others, 'tis golden. In some places, the minerals are greenish yellow. In others, they have the complexion of ingudas. There are mountainous caverns that have the hue of evening clouds. Some are as red as rabbits. Other minerals are golden red. They are white and black, like clouds with the rays of the rising sun. In their many different forms, they are bringing great radiance to the mountain. O Partha, as Vrishaparva had said, Gandharvas can be seen on the peak of the mountain, together with their wives and Kimpurushas. O Bhima, the sounds of songs, melodies, and hymns can be heard in many ways, charming to all beings. Behold the great, pure, and auspicious Ganga, the river of the gods. It is full of masses of swans, and is frequented by rishis and kinnaras. O Kaunteya, O destroyer of enemies, behold this king of mountains, full of minerals, streams, kinnaras, animals, birds, gandharvas, apsaras, lovely woods, many types of predators, and with 100 different peaks. Those brave ones, the scorchers of enemies, were delighted in their minds at having traversed that supreme path, and their hearts were not satisfied at looking at this king of mountains. They then saw the hermitage of Rajarshi Arishtashen, full of garlands and trees laden with fruit. I've read the footnote for Arishtashen. Though never made clear, Arishtashen might be Devapi, Shantanu's elder brother, who had resorted to the forest. And a footnote. So they went to the sage Arishtashen, who was learned in Dharma and was so severe in his austerities that he was lean and seemed to be made up of veins alone. I'll go for more for a bit. 453. Vaishampayana said, Having approached the ascetic, who had burnt away all his sins, Yudhisthira announced his name and happily greeted him, with his head bowed down. After that, Krishna, Bhima, and the famous twins lowered their heads before the Rajarshi and stood there, surrounding him. In that fashion, Tomya, learned in Dharma, and the priest of the Pandavas approached the rishi who was rigid in his vows, in accordance with propriety. Through his divine sight, the sage who was learned in Dharma had already recognized Pandu's sons, the best of the Kuru lineage, and greeting them, asked them to be seated. The great ascetic showed honors to the wise bull among the Kurus, Yudhisthira. When he was seated with his brothers, he asked him about his welfare. Does your mind ever turn towards that which is not true, or do you follow Dharma? This must be the sage speaking. O Partha, does your conduct towards your mother and father ever diminish? Are your preceptors, all the elders, and those who are learned worshipped by you? O Partha, does your mind ever turn towards evil acts? O best of the Kuru lineage, do you know how to reward a good deed and ignore an evil deed? Do you treat them according to the law and without any conceit? Do virtuous ones rejoice when such deserving ones are honored by you? Though you dwell in the forest, do you follow that which is Dharma? O Partha, has Tomya been tormented by the way you treat him? Do you follow the dharma of donations, austerities, purity, uprightness, and forbearance? O Partha, do you follow the conduct of your fathers and grandfathers? O Pandava, do you tread the path followed by the Rajarshis? It is said that when a son or a grandson is born in one's lineage, the ancestors in the world of the ancestors either sorrow or laugh. What will happen to us if he performs evil deeds, or will we prosper because he performs good deeds? Say those ancestors. O Partha, he who honors his father, his mother, the fire, the preceptor, and his own soul as the fifth, conquers both the worlds. Meaning this world and the next. Next. There are rishis who live on water and on the wind. At the time of Parvasandhi, they fly through the air and visit this greatest of mountains. O king, Kimpurushas, lovers with their beloveds, devoted to each other, can be seen on the peaks of this mountain. O Partha, many masses of Gandharvas and Apsaras can be seen. They are attired in spotless garments and in those made of silk. There are masses of handsome and garlanded Vidyadharas, and masses of great serpents, giant birds, and other serpents. At the time of Parvasandhi, the sounds of kettle drums, panavas, conch shells, and drums can be heard on this mountain. O bull, among the Bharata lineage, you can hear all of that from this place. But you should never act or think so as to venture closer. O supreme, among the Bharata lineage, beyond this point, it is impossible to go. That place is the sporting ground of the gods, beyond the access of humans. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, at that spot, all beings hate the fickle deeds of humans and Rakshasas chastise them. O Yudhisthira, beyond the peak of this mountain can be seen the radiant objective of Devarishis, those who are supremely successful. O Partha, O destroyer of enemies, if one is fickle enough to continue on the journey beyond this point, the Rakshasas kill him with iron spears and other means. At the time of Parvasandhi, Vaishravan Naravahana, Kubera, Lord of Riches. In the footnote, Kubera is the son of Vishrav and is therefore known as Vaishravan, Kubera is described as Naravana because he has a man, Nara, as his mount or vehicle, Vahana. End of footnote. He can be seen there in his prosperity, surrounded by Apsaras. All the beings then see the lord of the Rakshasas seated on the peak of the mountain, as resplendent as the rising sun. O supreme among the Bharata lineage, the peak of that mountain is the sporting ground of the gods, Danavas, Siddhas, and Vaishravan. O son, at the time of Parvasandi, Tumburu worships the Lord of Riches there, and the sounds of his songs and hymns can be heard on Gandhamadana. O son, O Yudhisthira, at the time of Parvasandi, all the many different beings witness this wonderful sight here. O best of the Pandavas, dwell here, live on the succulent fruit and other tasty food until you see Arjuna. O son, now that you have reached this place, you should never be fickle. O best of those who wield weapons, after living here as you desire and sporting yourself, you will protect the earth.
Wow, brilliant. Okay, Braja Mohan is going to take over the baton.
Hariom.
Hariom.
454. Janamejaya asked, how long did the great souled sons of Pandu, all of them divine in valor, live on Mount Gandhamadana? O virtuous one, what did those great souled ones, valorous in the world, subsist on? Why they lived there? Tell me in detail about Bhimsen's prowess. What did the mighty armed one accomplish in those Himalaya mountains? O supreme among Brahmanas, did he wage war against the Yakshas again? Did they ever meet Vaishravana? Arshti did say that the Lord of Riches visits the place. O one rich in austerities, I wish to hear all this in great detail. I am never satiated on hearing about their deeds. Beshampayana said, after having heard the instructions of the immensely energetic one, good for their welfare, the bulls among the Bharata lineage always abided by them. They lived on the food of hermits, succulent fruits, the meat of deer shot with pure arrows, and different kinds of pure honey. The Pandavas, bulls among the Bharata lineage, dwelt on the slopes of the Himalayas. In this fashion, they lived there for 5 years, listening to the many words spoken by Lomasha. O Lord, Gatotkacha had left earlier with all the other Rakshasas, saying that he would return whenever the occasion demanded. Many months passed while the great souled ones dwelt in Arshtishena's hermitage, and they witnessed many great marvels. While the Pandavas happily lived there and swore to themselves, many immensely fortunate hermits and charanas, pure in soul and rigid in their vows, came to see the Pandavas and held conversations with the supreme of the Bharata lineage on celestial matters. After some time, a Suparna suddenly carried away a handsome and giant serpent that used to dwell in the giant lake. The mighty mountain began to tremble, and many large trees were torn down. With all beings, the Pandavas witnessed this extraordinary sight. Then, from the supreme mountain, a wind blew towards the Pandavas and carried many different kinds of beautiful and fragrant flowers. With their well-wishers and with the famous Draupadi, the Pandavas saw those divine flowers with 5 different colors. At that time, when the mighty armed Bhimasena was comfortably seated at a secluded spot on the mountain, Krishna told him, O bull among the Bharata lineage, as a result of the forceful wind generated from the Suparna's great force, 5 colored blossoms have been dropped near the river Ashvarata, and all the beings have witnessed this. Your great-souled brother, always driven by truth, once restrained Gandharvas, serpents, Rakshasas, and even Vashava himself in Kandava. After killing the ones who resort to Maya, he obtained the bow Gandiva. You also possess enormous energy and great strength of arms. You are indomitable and irresistible and are the equal of Shatakratu in your strength. Let all the Rakshasas be terrified of the force and strength of your arms. O Bhimsen, they will leave this mountain and flee in the 10 directions. Then, devoid of all fear and delusion, let all your well-wishers behold this supreme mountain, auspicious and adorned with colorful flowers. O Bhima, this thought has been in my mind for a long time. Protected through the strength of your arms, I wish to see the top of this mountain. The scorcher of enemies was maddened by Draupadi's words. The mighty armed one could not stand it, like an excellent bull that has been beaten. His gait was like that of a lion or a bull. He was handsome and noble. His complexion was like that of gold. He was spirited and strong, powerful and proud. The brave Pandava's eyes were red and his shoulders were wide. He was like a maddened elephant in his valor. His teeth were like a lion's, and his shoulders were expansive. He was as tall as a young shallot tree. The great souled one was beautiful in all his limbs. His neck was like a conch shell, and his arms were huge. He grasped his gold plated bow, his sword, and his quivers. Like an insolent lion or like a maddened elephant, the strong one rushed toward the mountain, free from fear of delusion. All the beings saw him, wielding his arrows, sword, and bow, like a king of the beasts, or a maddened elephant. The Pandava was devoid of fear or delusion. To increase Draupadi's happiness, he grasped a club and penetrated the king of the mountains. Partha, the son of the wind god, was not bothered by fatigue, fear, lassitude, or envy. He came to a terrible looking and uneven passage that only one person could pass through at a time. Through this, the immensely strong one ascended the peak, as tall as many palm trees. Agitating Kinnaras, great serpents, hermits, Gandharvas, and Rakshasas, the immensely strong one ascended the mountain. The bull among the Bharata lineage saw Vaishravana's abode there. It was ornamented with golden and crystalline buildings, gladdening all beings. An extremely pleasant breeze blew there, arising from Gandhamadana, and carrying all the various fragrances in it. There were many beautiful trees of divers kinds, extraordinary and colorful and beyond all thought. The bull among the Bharata lineage then saw the abode of the lord of the Rakshasas. It was covered on all sides by a network of gems. It was pure and was adorned with beautiful flowers. The mighty armed Bhimsen stood there, as immobile as a mountain. Prepared to give up his life, he held a club, a sword, a bow, and arrows in his hand. He then blew on his conch shell, and this made the body hair of his enemies stand up. He twanged his bow and slapped his arms and terrified all beings. Their body hair standing up, yakshas, rakshasas, and gandharvas rushed towards the sound and approached Pandava. The clubs, maces, swords, spears, lances, and battle axes taken up by the yakshas and rakshasas in their arms began to blaze. O descendant of the Bharata lineage! Then a war started between them and him. With terrible force and speed, Bhima used his arrows to slice off the spears, lances, and battle axes hurled at him by those gigantic ones. The immensely powerful one pierced the bodies of the Rakshasas with his arrows, and they roared, while roaming around in the sky and on the ground. A great shower of blood rained down on the immensely strong one, flowing from the bodies of the Rakshasas direction. Many heads and bodies of the yakshas and the Rakshasas were seen to be sliced off through what Bhima's mighty arms released. All the beings then saw the handsome Pandava enveloped by the Rakshasas like the sun with masses of clouds. But just as the sun penetrates everything with its rays, the mighty armed and powerful one, with truth and as his valor, penetrated all of them with his arrows. They uttered loud roars and victorious cries. But all the Rakshasas could not see any delusion in Bhimsen. All their limbs were wounded with these arrows, and they were oppressed with their fear of Bhimsen. Throwing away their great weapons, they roared in scared and terrible voices. Discarding their clubs, spears, swords, lances, and battle axes, they fled in a southern direction, scared of the one whose bow was firm. There remained a mighty armed and broad-chested Rakshasa. His name was Maniman, and he held a spear and a club in his hands. He was Vaishravana's friend. The mighty armed one exhibited his authority and his manliness. On seeing them flee, he smilingly said, "On reaching Vaishravana's abode, what will you tell the Lord of Riches, since several of you have been defeated in battle by a single man?" Having spoken these words, the Rakshasa restrained them and dashed toward the Pandava, with a lance, a spear, and a club in his hands. On seeing him forcefully approach, like a maddened elephant, Bhimsen pierced his side with 3 calf-toothed arrows. Arrows have different names, classified according to the arrow's head and the shaft. This one was Vatsadanta, Vatsa meaning calf and Danta meaning teeth, a reference to the arrow's tip or head. And a footnote. Angered, Maniman grasped a gigantic club. Having grasped it, he hurled it with great force at Bhimsen. That gigantic club clashed like lightning in the sky and was extremely terrible. That gigantic club flashed like lightning in the sky and was extremely terrible. But Bhimsen shot many arrows that had been sharpened on stone. However, all those arrows were blunted on the club, and despite their great force, could not restrain its swift force. But the valorous one knew the art of fighting with a club, and the courageous Bhima warded off the blow. When the wise Rakshasa grasped an extremely terrible javelin with a golden shaft and struck him with it, the extremely terrible weapon was blazing in flames and uttered a loud roar. It pierced Bhima's right arm and swiftly fell down on the ground. Having been severely pierced by the javelin, Kauravya, skilled in fighting with clubs, a mighty archer and infinite in valor, grasped his club. That club was made entirely out of iron. Brandishing it, Bhima rushed with great speed towards the immensely powerful Maniman. Maniman also grasped a giant and blazing spear. Uttering a great roar, he flung it at Bhimsen with force. But the one who was skilled in fighting with clubs splintered the spear with the end of his club and rushed to destroy him, like Garuda against the serpent. With a club in his hand, the mighty armed one suddenly jumped in the sky. He roared in battle and flung it. With the speed of the wind, like the Vajra hurled by Indra, it struck the Rakshasa. Having killed him, it fell down on the ground like a she-demon. All the beings saw how the Rakshasa, terrible in strength, was felled by Bhimsen, like a bull by a lion. On seeing him dead on the ground, the remaining roamers of the night uttered terrible cries of distress and fled in an eastern direction. 455. Vishampayana said, "On hearing the caves in the mountains resounding with many different kinds of noise, and on not seeing Bhimsen, Kanteya Ajatashatru, Madri's 2 sons, Domya, Krishna, the Brahmanas, and all the well-wishers were concerned. Leaving Draupadi in Arshtishena's care, the brave Maharatas ascended up the mountain, arming themselves with weapons. Having reached the mountain's summit, the Maharatas, mighty archers, looked around and saw Bhimsen, the destroyer of enemies, and the gigantic Rakshasa, dead and writhing, mighty in strength and extremely terrible, but felled by Bhimsen. The one with the mighty arms carried a club, a sword, and a bow, and was as radiant as Maghavan, after slaying all the Danavas in battle. Having traversed the supreme route, the Parthas stepped over these, embraced Vrikodara, and seated themselves. With those 4 mighty archers, the mountain's summit looked as beautiful as heaven, with the immensely fortunate Lokapalas foremost among the gods." Having seen Kubera's abode and the felled Rakshasas, the brothers told his seated brother Pandava, O Bhima, O brave one, whether you perform this evil act out of bravery or delusion, it is unworthy of you, like falsehood to a hermit. Learned ones, well versed in Dharma, say that one should not perform deeds that are against the wishes of a king. O Bhimasena, you have offended the 30 gods through your deed. O Partha, if one's mind is attracted to evil, disregarding Artha and Dharma, it is certain that there will be fruits from that evil deed. If you wish to do that which pleases me, do not ever act like this again. Kunti's son Yudhishthir, with Dharma in his soul and knowledgeable about the different aspects of Artha, spoke thus to his unvanquished brother. Having stopped speaking, the immensely energetic one began to reflect on the matter. Meanwhile, the Rakshasas who had survived Bhimsen returned towards Kubera's abode. Traveling at great speed, they swiftly reached Vaishravana's abode. They wailed in terrible distress, oppressed by fear of Bhimsen. They had lost their arms and weapons. They were exhausted. Their garments were besmeared with blood. Their hair was disheveled. O king, they told the lord of the Yakshas, O lord of riches, O god, armed with clubs, maces, swords, javelins, and lances, all the foremost warriors among the Rakshasas have been killed. A man has swiftly penetrated the mountain and has single-handedly killed masses of Krodavashas in battle. O Lord of riches, O God, the foremost among chief Rakshasas and Yakshas have been killed and have lost their senses and their spirits. He has taken the mountain. We are the only ones who have escaped. Your friend Maniman has also been killed. This act has been done by a single man. Now do what should be done hereafter. Having heard this, the lord of all the masses of Yakshas was enraged. His eyes became red with anger, and he exclaimed, How is that possible? On hearing of Bhima's second offense, the Lord of Riches and the Lord of the Yakshas was angered and instructed his horses to be yoked. The beautiful chariot was yoked with supreme Gandharva horses that possessed all the good qualities. They were clear in the eye and were swift and strong. They were adorned with many gems. The chariot resembled a cloud and was as high as the peak of a mountain. The beautiful horses were yoked to the chariot and were ready to fly, like arrows. They were excited and neighed at each other, as if foretelling victory. The illustrious king of the Yakshas ascended the grand chariot, and the immensely radiant one departed, praised by the gods and the Gandharvas. As the great-souled Lord of Riches left, all the Yakshas accompanied him. Their eyes were red, they were golden in complexion, they were gigantic in form and immensely strong. They were armed with weapons and had girded their sword. There were 1 crore Yakshas. They were brave and indomitable in spirit. They surrounded their king. The Pandavas saw the Lord of Riches, great and pleasant to look at, approach, and their body hair stood up. On seeing Pandu's Mahabharata sons, great in spirit, with their bows and swords in their hands, Kubera was also delighted. With great speed, they alighted on the peak of the mountain like birds and stood around the Lord of Riches, who was at the forefront. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, on seeing that he was delighted with the Pandavas, the Yakshas and Gandharvas stood around indifferently. The great-souled Pandavas, Nakula, Sahadev, and Dharma's son, who was always devoted to Dharma, bowed down in obeisance before the illustrious Lord of Riches. The Maharajas knew in their hearts that they had committed a crime. Therefore, all of them surrounded the Lord of Riches, hands joined in salutation. The handsome Lord of Riches was seated on his purple pushpaka. Pushpaka is Kubera's celestial chariot, or Bimana. And the handsome Lord of Riches was seated on his supreme pushpaka, constructed by Vishvakarma, and colored along the sides. Thousands of giant yakshas and rakshasas, swift in speed and with pointed ears, seated themselves below the seated one. Hundreds of Gandharvas and masses of Apsaras surrounded and waited on him, like Shatakratu surrounded by the gods. With a beautiful golden garland on his head, and with arrows, sword, and bow in his hand, Bhimsen looked at the Lord of Riches. Despite being wounded by the Rakshasas, Bhima felt no fear or exhaustion. Even in that state, he looked at Kubera. On seeing Bhima standing there, desiring to fight and with sharp arrows, Naravahana told Dharma's son, "O Partha, all the beings know that you have the welfare of beings in your heart. Therefore, with your relatives, live on this mountain without any fear. O Pandava, nor should you be angry because of Bhimsen's deed. They had already been killed by destiny, and your brother was only the instrument. Nor should you be ashamed at this violent deed of his. The destruction of the Yakshas and the Rakshasas had been determined by the gods earlier. O bull among the Bharata lineage, I am not angry with Bhimsen. I am pleased. I have already satisfied myself with this deed of Bhimsen's." Having said this to the king, he spoke to Bhimsen, "O son, O supreme among the Kuru lineage, this will not prey on your mind. O Bhima, you have embarked on this act of violence for Krishna's sake. You have ignored me and the gods. You have destroyed the Yakshas and the Rakshasas with the strength of your own arms. But even then, I am pleased with you. O Vrikodara, you have freed me from a terrible curse. Earlier, for some reason, I was cursed by the supreme Rishi Agastya because he had been angered. Because of your deed, I have now been freed from the curse following that transgression. O descendant of the Pandava lineage, O destroyer of enemies, since I foresaw this grief, no crime attaches to you." Yudhishthira asked, "O illustrious one, why were you cursed by the great soul Agastya?" "O God, I wish to hear about the reasons behind the curse. It seems to me extraordinary that the wise one's anger did not instantly consume you with all your armies and your attendants." Vaishravana replied, "O Lord of men, there was a council of the gods in Kushavati. I was going there, surrounded by 300 Mahapadmas. Padma is a trillion. Mahapadma isn't specific, but is simply a very, very large number in the footnote. I was going there surrounded by 300 Mahapadmas of terrible-looking yakshas, armed with various weapons. While going there, I saw the supreme Rishi Agastya practicing terrible austerities on the banks of the Yamuna. The place was full of masses of birds and adorned with blossoming trees. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, on seeing him standing there with his arms raised and facing the sun, a mass of energy and as radiant as a blazing fire that has been kindled well, my handsome friend Maniman, the lord of the Rakshasas, was overcome by stupidity, ignorance, and insolence and delusion. From the sky he spat on the Maharishi's head. He was angered, and as though burning up the direction said, "O Lord of Riches, because this evil-minded one has insulted me, and because he has injured me while you have looked on, this friend of yours with all these armies will meet their deaths at the hand of a human. O one with evil intelligence, you will also grieve together with these armies. But you will be freed from your sin when you encounter that human. However, this terrible curse will not touch the powerful sons and grandsons of these armies. Go now, they will follow your orders." This was the curse that I had earlier received from the supreme of rishis. O great king, your brother Bhima has freed me from that. Should we stop there? I guess it's past 9 o'clock. We should stop here.
Masura, wake up.
I'm not asleep. I'm